So release all the pressure extremely slowly. Take your time doing this. It should take you about 30 seconds to get this thing all the way to 0. If it does scrunch down into its travel, put it back in the frame and lift up on the saddle to full extension. It can be a little bit difficult, so the clip does slide around in a 360-degree circle. On an open end side of the clip, find a channel in the inner air can right here, and then use an automotive screwdriver, a small flat bladed screwdriver, and pop this up. Once it's unseated, you're just going to basically pull this ring out of its channel. So you are going to leave a little bit of a scratch on the air can like I did right here, and don't worry about it. Then we're going to pop the outer air can straight on down. It's incredibly important to stay clean when you're working on the air can to not introduce contaminants, and it's very oily inside of here that could attract dust. So there is a massive setup tip straight right here. So we have one volume token installed from the factory, and this is an off-the-shelf X2 from Jensen USA. The one token installed from the factory may be a problem for your setup. Everybody is different, but I am 220 pounds, 100 kilograms with 30% sag. The one token installed from the factory was too much. I did make a pretty big mistake before I took this apart. I forgot to clean the outside, so basically all the dust fell inside. So I used some alcohol to spray off all the dirt and debris. Before reassembling this shock, I decided to experimentally dig inside of this shock because the instructions aren't out quite yet and that won't age very good. So I wrapped up the stanchion with some painter's tape to protect it from any scratches. Grabbing the old tool set for the old X2, the pin spanner fits directly on the negative volume chamber. So I cracked it open, and fortunately, the stroke change on this shock only requires that one specialty tool. You should be able to take a small Allen key and remove or add stroke reducers inside of here. There's 2 sets of volume tokens included in your new X2. We're just going to call them the small ones and the big ones. So it ships with the big one, and it was a little bit too much, and I was tempted to put one small one in, but let's see how it goes with 0 tokens. 0 tokens. Suspension is very difficult to work on, even an easy job like this. So things were a little bit sideways right here. The thing would not screw together because I'd cleaned it off with alcohol. So a quick tip here, we use some suspension grease on the outer air can to make sure we don't tear any O-rings. Once everything's nice and lubed, we have 2 dots so you can't screw this up. So my first X2, I orientated the air filling valve in the wrong spot and gouged the frame. So I'm glad to see they put 2 dots on this to make it a little bit more dummy proof. Installing the outer clip can be a little bit difficult to get it into its fully home seated position. So here's my secret tip. Get some kind of tool like a tiny Allen key or flat bladed screwdriver, and you can slide it around in a 360-degree circle to make sure it goes into its home slot. And push the air can down and slide it around, and it will go into its channel. It is vitally important to make sure this ring is completely seated before you put any air in there. Before inflating any air pressure into this shock, let's full cycle it deep into its travel, all the way into the bump stop. So because of this frame design, I can leave the shock pump attached, but be very careful full cycling your shock with the shock pump attached. If you have a specialized enduro, it hits the frame, and I can tell you I learned that the hard way. After verifying the shock is not going to whack your frame, it's time to start inflating. So 50 psi, and then we want to depress the shock 10 to 20 psi, and if it's quiet inside your garage, you can actually hear it hissing into the negative chamber. So by doing this about 20 times or so, you're going to lose a whole bunch of pressure because it is inflating the negative chamber. So shoot for your body weight and then measure the sag. So I'm 255 psi and I weigh 220, so do the math. Based off of air pressure. So Fox wants you to measure these from fully closed like this. So I like to measure them from fully open, but we won't go down that route. So based off my air pressure, these are the settings that Fox recommends out of the gate. So there's another option here. I like to start with all the clickers in the middle because it gives the shock kind of a good balance. And this is pretty close to middle. The magic suspension setup does not exist. It's just basically a compromise in one of 2 directions. If you ever watched the Fox dialed shows with Jordy turning the knobs, basically he's helping them find traction or control. To better understand traction, this style of riding is traction. We want maximum wheel contact on the roots and the rocks. If you're going off steep lips, like this one, even though it's only a 3-foot lip, we need maximum control. So understand I just set the shock up for maximum traction, went off of this 3-foot steep lip and got zapped in the butt and almost went over the handlebars. So decide what you want your shock to excel at, traction or control. So there's a lot of setup variables when it comes to temperature. It's actually pretty hot today. So the rebound feels too fast from how I set it up before. So instead of slowing the rebound down, like pulling the tool out or moving the little adjuster knob, I discovered in the last ride, if I just turn the climb lever on, it's not a climb lever, it's a firm lever, things get a lot slower and more controlled. Keep in mind, this has been a very challenging shock for me to set up because it is wildly different than the previous model, and no 4-way adjustable shock has ever been known for good setup. Essentially, with one token installed from the factory, it just did not feel right. Felt like I was oversprung. With no tokens, it didn't have the support. So if you can't open the shock up, just hit the firm mode, but use that at your own risk. So I know the internet Karens aren't going to like me using the firm mode, so let's do it how you're supposed to with volume tokens. Tiny little green one in my hand is about 50% of the volume of the standard blue clip-in ones that were in the previous model. So we're going to do a field token swap. This is the first time I've ever done this. Depressing all the air out of the shock and lifting the bike back up into the full travel to make sure we're not going to have an explosion of the air can. Using the technique of getting inside of this clip area and spinning it around in a 360-degree circle makes removing this clip pretty simple. You do have to have some kind of pick on you with you on the trail. Okay, we got it. Since we're not scientific engineers, we're just going to refer to them as small token and big token. With one small token installed, let's see how it goes on this progressive frame set. Slide the air can down so it hugs it, but make sure you look at it in a 360-degree rotation that it's underneath the air can. Trying to figure out why the setup changed so much. It is hot, but also the damper could have broke in or something. My initial setup was when the shock was brand new, so that might be a variable. I don't know. All that matters is that it feels good to you, however it is set up. With the one small token installed, the bottom out issues were solved with the firm mode in the open settings. So let's move on to rebound. So I have flipped the bike upside down to make sure I don't turn this in the wrong direction. So clockwise is slow. Okay, now it's on full slow high speed, so we're gonna give it 2 clicks. I think it's easier to adjust both clickers at the same time and then test it on a high speed section. So this steeper 3-foot lip is the problem area, and I instantly know the rebound's not slow enough, doesn't have enough control for that lip, but I still have to run through the original bracketed test track. So with the slower rebound, there's definitely more control and rode so much better. So I think I came up with what the difference was. When it's drier, all the ground is super dry. I'm actually riding faster than I normally do, and that requires more control. So that's why I just needed to knock the rebound down a few clicks. So before moving on to compression, there's a couple more tests I want to do on the rebound, but we're talking 3 to 5 clicks slower just because of the speed on the trail is higher, I'm guessing. I don't think it's anything to do with actual temperature inside of the shock. It's 100% your preference, but right here I have to force the bike down into level position, so it's not the control I'm looking for in this long travel 29er. Oh my gosh. Okay, clockwise. So we're gonna go slower on high speed. Full slow high speed. By moving the high speed rebound to the full slow setting, didn't feel like any compromise through that section. So that's what suspension setup is all about, is finding more control without any compromise on the pop department. So this section felt it could have been a little bit too fast. So this bike is full 29 and long travel, so it's a little dangerous, like as far as the tire coming up into your butt. So you need like full control over the rear. If it was mullet, it wouldn't be such a big deal, but I'm gonna try it with a full slow high-speed rebound down this faster section. Focusing on the higher speed sections of trail, full control was achieved. So let's look at that before. I had to kind of force the bike down into level position. If you don't know what to do with low speed, just give it 5 clicks. It's just like a little pinch of salt. This is the best plan of attack for the low speed compression. So basically I was running it at 5 clicks and now I moved it up to about 10 clicks. And basically it's kind of like the body movements of the bike. So I personally think low speed compression is a little bit rubbish. It is required, but you don't want too much. It's like harder to pump the bike with the low speed on. I don't know why you would want a bunch of low speed on, but it makes the bike feel more sluggish. Kind of more harder to bunny hop. So we instantly know that 10 clicks is not good. So we're just gonna go back to 5 because that seemed like a good middle ground. So I know for my riding style and weight that I'm full high speed compression guy, but it has a lot to do with how you ride. Like some people ride like a feather, I kind of ride like a stone. So this section right here, it is like a 3-foot jump. So I like to purposely just huck this thing into the flat. So in that kind of environment, you want full high-speed compression and a touch of bottom out control or hydraulic bottom out. But I'm gonna try run through here with 5 clicks. I think it has 8 or 10 clicks. So you just wanna try like off, middle, and full, and whichever one feels the best on these huck to flat sections. So I have friends who ride substantially better than me who just scrub over this. Like they don't jump it, they scrub it because they're going for speed. So it's a lot more so riding style than actual weight. So we're gonna try it with 50% high-speed compression and see if it was different, because I've been running through it all day with full high-speed compression on. 4, 5. Instead of 10 clicks, we're going 5. So this has me really curious. There was no perceivable difference by going 50% high-speed compression. So I'm gonna run through it again with no high-speed compression and see if there's a difference. So firm is clockwise, so it's off. Speed compression on, 3-foot jump. There's definitely less control with the high-speed compression turned off. So I'm just gonna wind it all the way back on and go back to my full-on high-speed compression setting. So it's basically helping you with control by adding high-speed compression. So with no high-speed compression added, my Apple Watch detected a crash, so there was definitely less control because it was a super hard landing. So I got to cancel that before. Hopefully this helped get your X2 dialed, but here's the kicker. I made a detailed PDF setup notes for all the pitfalls you can avoid on this shock, linked in the first comment.